The Nightbirds Sing by Ruth Wire. Chapter 1. September 1942. Phoebe jumped down from the Camp Emerald Bay truck with the rest of the Girl Scouts, inhaled the gasoline fumes from Midtown Hollywood, and coughed. Buses rattled by, car horns honked. She'd almost forgotten what it was like in the city. If only she could still be in Emerald Bay, she thought. Hear the lapping of gentle waves and feel the bracing sea air. The girls pushed past her, and while some disappeared into waiting automobiles, others huddled together, giggling like young children. Her shoulders slumped. They had nothing to worry about, while she had troubles. She lugged her duffel and the bedroll to the bus bench, sat down and rested her chin on the upended sleeping bag between her knees. Where was Mama? Well, with a sigh, she produced a nickel and lugged her sleeping bag and duffel to the public phone booth. Next to it was a stand whose newspaper headlines announced how America was in the conflict on both the European and Pacific fronts. The streets were full of soldiers and sailors. In the phone booth, she put the nickel into a slot and dialed. "Hello," said Mama's voice. "I'm back," Phoebe said. "Phoebe! Sheila! She's home! Phoebe! It's Phoebe!" Oh my God, the time slipped away. "You must be early." "No, I'm late." "Honey, I can hardly hear you. Tony's boys are moving in. They're clunking up the stairs with their big footlocker." In happy surprise, Phoebe said, "Mario." "Oh my God." Mama hesitated for a second and then asked, "Did you have a good time?" Phoebe thought a moment about Elizabeth and then answered, "Mostly." "You gonna come and get me?" "I'm almost out of gas coupons. Nobody there to give you a ride?" Phoebe looked at the receiver a little surprised. "No," she said. Tears were coming. She'd forgotten while she was away from her mother how Mama had changed. She stared out the phone booth glass for a moment at the milling crowds full of pickpockets, men dressed like women, and bums getting ready to sleep in doorways. She shuddered. Did Mama forget this was Hollywood? She heard Mama sigh. "All right, where are you?" "I'm at the corner of Santa Monica and Highland," Phoebe said with relief. She sat down again on the bench, trying not to notice that the rest of the Girl Scouts were fast appearing. What would she do if she were all alone soon? She'd kick anyone who bothered her with her hiking boots. Phoebe wound her wristwatch. Mama should be at the corner in 10 minutes. Bus doors whooshed open and then closed. Cars stopped before the arms of the traffic signals. As the sun disappeared behind the buildings, the crowds of people lost their individuality, becoming mushed together. Their voices hung like insects. A brown Ford stopped in front of her and the passenger door swung open. "Need a ride, girlie?" a male voice said. Her heart pounded. This was what Mama had warned her about. Do not talk to strangers. But she couldn't help glancing into the car. "Make up your mind," he said. And behind him, cars honked and a man yelled, "Get a move on!" The car door slammed shut as the man pulled away. A voice asked, "Was he bothering you?" There stood a serviceman in his tan summer uniform and garrison cap. He reminded her of the USO soldier from Iowa that he'd invited to dinner a few months ago. Was he looking at her blouse? Her breasts had grown that summer. She felt as though all men knew. She hugged her sleeping bag to her chest. "No," she said. "My mother's coming to get me." "Go away." The soldier laughed. "Don't worry. I don't bother with San Quentin quail. But the fleet's in, and you better get out of here. And don't trust a sailor." He patted the top of her head. She ducked. "Mama better hurry up." A fog had settled on the upper stories of the buildings. Even though she saw the sun through the haze, Phoebe shivered in her shorts. It'd be night soon. Near the bench above her head, a blackout-shaded streetlight bulb flicked on, the color of weak tea. Then Phoebe noticed Roselle Davis shuffling toward her with her gear. Her mother must be late too. I just called, but nobody's home, Roselle said. I haven't any money for the bus. Would your mother maybe... Phoebe wanted to help Roselle, but Mom had that frantic sound in her voice. Where do you live? She asked Roselle. Silver Lake. Oh, that's not far. Okay. Mama probably wouldn't mind. Oh, thanks, said Roselle, shoving her gear next to Phoebe's. Mama's green Chevrolet drove up, and the fog lifted a little, and the sunset peeked through. Let me do the talking, Phoebe said, and shoved Roselle into the back seat, her friend's gear after her, as she got in the front seat and slammed the door. Mom, you don't mind dropping off Roselle, do you? She lives in Silver Lake, close by, okay? Mama said, I'm not a chauffeur, Phoebe. Roselle started to get out. I better not. Phoebe turned and reached for her, pulling her back into the car. She hasn't any money for car fare, and even if she did, she can't drag that sleeping bag of devil onto the bus, Mother. She wanted to add that Roselle had been decent to her at camp, but she was jerked back as her mother accelerated the vehicle and said, Isn't your mother home? Doesn't she know you're coming in today? Phoebe glared at her mother for a second, and then turned and gave Roselle a weak smile. It's okay. You can stop and let me out, said Roselle. Where does your friend live in Silver Lake? Roselle told her in a meek voice. Don't surprise me again, Phoebe. I have a house full of strangers moving in, and I left Sheila with them to get you. Someday you'll know what it's like to be a mother and have thoughtless children who use you for a chauffeur. Phoebe fixed a frozen smile on Roselle. We're almost there. After Roselle ran from the car, Phoebe said, I'll never ask you to do anything for me or any of my friends again. Don't be so dramatic, Sarah Bernhardt. Her mother turned to Phoebe and said in a bitter voice, Do you know what your father has done? He married that woman. I met her stupid niece at camp, and she told me. I didn't write to you about it. I wanted you to have fun. You know they actually wanted your sister at the wedding. Isn't that child unhappy enough? Sheila begged me to get her out of it. Phoebe sighed. Now Charlotte's her stepmother. Stepmother. I spit on her. Your mother is alive, Phoebe. Very much alive. Look at me when I talk to you, you stupid kid. I have too many mothers. Mama gave Phoebe a stare for a second. Oh, come on. Let's not fight, she said, starting to drive again. The raspy wail of a sax coming from the upstairs window of their old Victorian rooming house. Phoebe lugged her gear as fast as she could up the steps. Mario, she said, stopping at the front door to straighten her blouse and plop her braids over her shoulder. Mama spoke from behind her. You primping for Mario? Be careful of him, Phoebe. Only 16, but he's so cocky he thinks he's smarter than anyone else in the world. Walks around like a lord of creation. Phoebe bowed her head. Understand, I don't mean to talk bad about him. Can you imagine? Taught himself to play sax and clarinet, and he writes music. Phoebe turned and gave Mama a big smile, and they hugged. I rented the other room also to a Mr. Green, a Hollywood writer. I told him you write a little too. You didn't. He was impressed. No, it's true. Phoebe thought, this is how you used to be. They entered the house arm in arm. In the living room, she saw Joey's scrawny legs coming down the stairs. He was pulling a big, empty trunk on his way to the cellar. He was not coming home to a surprise party. The deep voice of the sax bellowed from upstairs. Tony, the boy's father, dozed in the big wing chair. Mama put her fingers to her lips. Shh. When Mama first introduced her special friend, Tony Popela, and his sons, Mario, 16 years old, and Joey, 14 years old, to her and Sheila last spring, Phoebe discovered there was something marvelous in the world besides Anne of Green Gables. She'd gone around so embarrassed and tongue-tied that Mario threw his head back and laughed. What would she do now if he appeared? She realized she would see him every day. Oh, how could she stand it to pass him in her bathroom in the hall with her hair all up in pin curls? She looked up, hearing steps. Mario was coming down the stairs. Hi, Phoebe. How was Emerald Bay? Mario's voice, rich and deep. It didn't sound like a boy's at all. His eyes were dark brown, his hair thick and brunette and dark, and he was always laughing at something. You're still wearing your greenies, he said, looking at her camp shorts and flipping one of her braids. Phoebe blushed. Phoebe, show Joey where his trunk goes, said Mama. Thank you, Mama. She ran to the stairs so he couldn't see her red face and grabbed a handle of Joey's trunk. She and Joey hauled it down into the kitchen where the door to the basement was. She wasn't afraid of being with Joey. He was a big-nosed, pimply, skinny kid who never said anything good about other people. But he adored his big brother and called him a musical genius. You hear Mario playing? Joey said. He composed that. I'm sure. I guess you and I will be going to school together, she said. Heaven forbid, Joey said. Stay away from me. You on one side of the street, me on the other. She let her end of the trunk drop. I wouldn't walk to school with you and catch your cooties. Joey said as Phoebe ran up the basement stairs, slammed the door, and bumped into Sheila in the kitchen, who said, that Tony is around here all the time now. Her green eyes darted back and forth as if she couldn't talk loud in her own home. I like Tony, Phoebe said. He's sweet to Mama. He treats his sax and clarinet like they were his babies. He plays in a dive in the Negro part of town, Sheila said. Mario says that's where all the good music is. Well, Joey took Arabella and pulled her dress off and twisted her arms. Your princess doll? Phoebe said. No one but Sheila was allowed to touch Arabella, a red satin bed doll. Her dress was embedded with tiny rhinestones, and she wore black patent leather shoes. She always sat on Sheila's pillow during the day. That dirty rat! What did Mama say? Before Sheila could answer her, Phoebe saw Joey prance into the kitchen, holding something behind his back. Ha ha ha! Look what I have! He held up her diary. Give me that, Joey! He'd already poked around in her room. She reached up for it, but he kept the diary high and away from her as he began to read. Oh, Mario, your eyes are like melted fudge, and your teeth are as white as snow. Roses are red and soft to the touch. Mario, oh Mario, I love you so much. She saw Mario in the doorway, a big grin on his face. She yelled at Joey, you dirty skunk, you can't be that! And with all her might, she kicked Joey in the shins with the toe of her hiking boot. He crumpled in surprise and dropped the diary, screaming, "Ow! You goddamn bitch!" He grabbed his leg, crying, Jesus! And limped into the backyard. What happened? Sit, asked Mama, running in. Joey's gone crazy, Sheila said. Mama turned on the blackout garden light and went after him through the screen door, while Sheila and Phoebe followed through the kitchen to the back porch. Joey had torn a big frond off the palm tree, and he'd begun to whip it around him in a circle as if he wanted to murder everything in his path, while he screamed, "Jesus, and goddamn bitch!" Phoebe turned and noticed that Mario was calmly pouring himself a cup of coffee in the kitchen. He gave her a wink and sat down and began to read the newspaper. Sheila yanked on her sleeve just after he gave her a wink, and Phoebe whirled about to see Mama approaching Joey, who was still cursing and swinging that big frond. "Put that thing down before I have to take it away from you," Mama said. Joey kept swinging and screaming. "Put it down, Joey. Put that thing down," Mama said, walking right into the path of the bushing frond. Joey made the shrieking sound of a scared horse and stopped swinging just as he was about to hit her. For what seemed a long while, he held the palm frond over Mama, ready to hit her, while his cheeks worked and his teeth showed. Then his face crumpled into crisscross lines, and he dropped the palm frond and began to sob as if he were vomiting. Mama put his head on her chest and began stroking his hair. John, their next-door neighbor, stood at the fence with a concerned expression, looking at Joey and Mama. And from an upstairs window, Phoebe heard a shade zip down. It was Mr. Green's window. Mr. Green, the writer.